Jason Michalicek joins me today to discuss his love of Minnesota sports and specifically his Joe Mauer collection. Jason, welcome.
Thanks. So glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Your Twitter bio says Minnesota sports fan, former math teacher, record collector, and MTG player. I love that
Mhm.
variety. Tell me a little bit about your collecting background.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of kind of just starting from the beginning, I started collecting right around 6 or 7 years old. So, late 90s is so just to give you an idea how old I am. You do a quick math there. But my dad and I were in our local card shop, and he said, you should try to pick somebody. Unfortunately for the Twins, that was kind of an era, a handful of years where you had maybe a year or two of Chuck Knobloch, or Marty Cordova was pretty big, but other than that, you didn't really have like a big like superstar, I guess, that I was super like as a kid was just like always center of attention. So I actually picked Barry Bonds. And so
Okay.
I actually have a decent amount, and I haven't really, I pick up some cool inserts here and there, some shiny ones, but, um, uh, and so as you kind of follow my baseball collection, you kind of get a pattern of, I'm a big fan of that really sweet looking left-handed swing. So when I started playing baseball more, and I played throughout high school, um, and did intramurals at college, that kind of stuff. Joe was actually drafted kind of right when became more of a focal point for baseball and collecting and whatnot. And so when he debuted in 2004, that was I believe the end of my freshman year, or just going into my sophomore, and so of high school. And so it just kind of naturally transitioned from Barry to Joe, and was just kind of on and off here and there throughout high school and college. Just there's plenty of other things to spend the money on during those time periods, and so going to concerts and um, just going and doing stuff. So there was a few years where I didn't collect as much, and then I'd say it was like 2018 ish was when I really kind of really picked back up for Joe specifically. And then for Magic, I like playing Magic. I played a lot like 10-ish years ago, 10 plus years ago. Unfortunately, the past few years, kind of gotten fatigued by how much product they're releasing, in baseball and other sports cards. We kind of see that, or kind of feeling that as well, just the number of parallels or the number of products. And so, you just get done with like an announcement, and they would like do the spoilers and release all the kind of the cool cards, and preview them, and then like 2 weeks later it'd be another set. And so it just kind of got to be so much. I'm just like, I can't keep up. And so that kind of fell a little bit to the wayside recently. And then the record collection, I haven't really purchased a ton in a long time. I'll usually buy like a couple of favorite albums from the year. I like to try to really kind of keep up with new releases and whatnot. And so um, that area, records kind of got pretty expensive. We similar to kind of like a COVID era type, for like sports cards. You know how it spiked.
Yep.
Records got pretty popular, I'd say, like mid 2010s, and so you kind of saw like more expensive stuff than normal, and so that kind of, I also kind of ran out of space. If you talk
Yeah.
about like collecting a collection that requires a lot of space and a lot of equipment, that's one. And so I have a record table down, player down here in my basement, where my office is, and then I have a nicer setup upstairs, kind of our main area. And so um, when I stopped, I was just shy of about 500 different albums, and I trimmed it down. just because we had a little hands going around grabbing things
Ah,
that I didn't want to pull them off the shelf and have that issue. Um, but yeah, so just kind of ebbs and flows. The magic and the record collecting was a while ago, kind of my main thing, and then kind of as those just just really couldn't keep up, I kind of shifted focus to kind of baseball and sports overall.
your profile says Minnesota sports. So are
Correct.
there connections that you've got to other some of the other teams, the Timberwolves or the Vikings, um, any of the college teams, anything like that as well, or is it mainly baseball?
So I actually kind of have some kind of cool connections elsewhere, but um, when I kind of rank them, baseball is always on top. Kind of being that math-minded person, I really just love. And other sports now are becoming more analytic. Hockey is starting to past few years look at and what do you want to say like predictive stats, and they're
Mhm.
looking at possession time and all those kind of more advanced stats that they've developed. But it was kind of baseball that led the way with that. And so that just kind of always was very close to an interest of mine. So, but I'm from a city in northern Minnesota, so hockey is really big. So I grew up in Duluth, Minnesota. It's right on the tip of Lake Superior, so easy. People know where that is. So I have a buddy that grew up down the street, still in the NHL. So that was really kind of cool to have somebody go. And so I have you know, a handful of his cards, 30, 40, something small, but just, some binder pages of his stuff, which is fun. And then CJ Ham is from Duluth, and so he plays for the Vikings. So I have a handful of his stuff. So just kind of those connections. I went to, so you can see it here,
Golden
Minnesota.
Gophers
So
there.
yep.
Yeah.
So I went to the Gophers for a few years, and actually changed to mathematics. And so with that change and kind of knowing I was going to go teach instead of actuarian mathematics, I transferred up to Duluth and finished up there at the university. So that's kind of the college connection. I did pep band, so kind of we would travel with the team, especially if they made like the NCAA tournament for like basketball or hockey or whatever. Football, I went to a couple of bowl games, and so have a decent amount of Gopher stuff. But again, those are the kind of collections where it's just like a $2 or $3 card or something,
Yep.
like, or you're doing a kind of like a fun binder page with like former basketball players or something, like Amir Coffey, Daniel Arturu, those guys that got drafted or played a little bit in the NBA and that kind of stuff, which is it's pretty fun.
Well, I went to the University of Illinois, so I'm
Oh,
a
gotcha.
proud Fighting Illini, and
Okay,
so yeah,
fair.
we've got that Big Ten, long-term Big Ten connection between us and Minnesota up there. So
Yeah,
you can see I've
absolutely.
got, well, you can't really make it out, but that's the Illini's basketball
Oh,
stadium right there.
okay,
A
cool.
picture of the last dance of Chief Illiniwick. So
Okay,
his final performance before they ended that tradition. So yeah, so we've got that Big Ten connection between us. Now, did you collect any basketball or football growing up? You mentioned some of the more recent stuff that you've got, personal
yeah.
connection to, but did you collect any basketball, football cards, hockey cards when you were younger too, or was it strictly baseball?
I have a handful. I had or I still have a handful of some cheaper, like Dante Culpepper,
Sure.
Randy stuff.
Yep.
Kind of the cheaper base rookie cards of those people. So, and some random ones too. That if you follow the NFL, you might remember a couple of Michael Bennett. You remember
Yep.
running back for the Vikings.
Yep.
And then, of course, with the triple threat with the three deep, so Randy, Chris Carter, and Jake Reed. So just a handful, and those were usually like presents and stuff. I was usually spending my money um, on Barry bonds to start, and then the handful of Vikings and KG, because that was
Yep.
kind of that peak Timberwolves
Yep.
too. But but I and like I said, peaks and valleys in terms of like that kind of stuff. There was a short period of time, like so many of my friends, we were into Pokemon,
Mhm.
99, 2000s, kind of right when I got into video games too. So,
Yep.
though that was kind of more of like just trading on the front steps kind of thing. So
Yep.
that wasn't really cards that ever stayed. It was just kind of actually playing with and having fun. So didn't really hold on to a lot of those, um, but yeah.
Well, this was a good year to be a Mauer collector. You finally get to celebrate,
Yes.
entrance into the Hall of Fame. Let's talk a little bit about your collection. What does that Mauer collection look like today? How big is it? What kind of where are you at with your Mauer collection?
Yeah, so I keep track on Trading Card Database, if you're
Hmm.
familiar,
Yep.
and I've done a terrible job lately. The past, it was a rough summer into kind of fall. Like I said, I have a little guy. He's a little over 3 years old, so he kind of hit a little bit of an attitude period. So my attention to detail a little bit on that has fallen, but I would say probably just over like 1,400 unique cards.
Okay.
Probably I've sold a few, which I know some people, when they super collect, that's like a big no, but it's just every now and then I'll sell some nicer ones, or some doubles, and I usually do it with other bigger twins or Mauer collectors. So I do know, that they're going and they're actually going to hold on to them, and and so it's not necessarily. And I don't have anything against people buying and then trying to sell for more. I have no issue with that, but I think it's just a little. It's nice when you can kind of share that common experience for the player, or the fact that he's a Twins player, and so. But yeah, I probably should update with the ones I've sold, and I've kind of halted a little bit on buying recently just because of that spike, and super excited that he made the haul, and it's been a fun few weeks.
Yeah, that's cool. I usually ask, what people do or how they go about getting the checklist of what they're going to chase and what's out there. But you already answered that question with
Oh yeah,
TCGD, and so
yep.
you've already hit on that. I'm sure that's where you've generated your list from. As you were starting to focus in, outside, when you were moving past that point of having a few Mauer cards early, from his early career, and kind of got back into it. You said in 2018, really started to focus in on building that Mauer collection out. Was there a particular approach that you took? There's some people that try to get everything. Some
Yep.
people say, I'm not going to go after the autographs and that type of stuff. I'm not going to go after the one of ones. And other people say, no, I want that stuff too. Did you
Right.
have kind of a particular focus as you were starting to build out that Mauer collection, or did you just kind of take it as it was coming and seeing what you could find?
Yeah, so was pretty fortunate that stuff back then wasn't like today, and so it was no, it was before kind of the COVID spike in terms of pricing, and then obviously with the Hall of Fame, his pricing has gone up, especially on the bigger stuff. But so I was kind of fortunate that I was able to get away with kind of having an everything approach, because I was maybe not 100% aware how things have changed and whatnot, just because it had been a little bit of a bigger gap in terms of, yeah, most of my time prior to that, the previous 4 or 5 years was Magic and record collecting. And so when I kind of got back and focused in on his stuff, I did kind of start with everything, but then I slowly figured out this isn't going to be possible. And so I slowly added things like not as big on like the archives autos. Like they're
Mhm.
cool, but I learned that the same card could be used a couple different years, so that that 101 or that out of 9 might not actually be accurate. And then I had different priorities. So, I have a lot of favorite cards that are unlicensed, but I wasn't necessarily going to spend a ton of money on those. And then I kind of figured out which ones I really liked. And so kind of what I was willing to spend more on. So I kind of added some of those things kind of as I went, and realized that I wasn't going to be able to necessarily collect everything.
Yeah, I think that's important for people to understand, right? When you're talking about a super collection, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to try to acquire every single card of
Mm-hmm.
that team, of that player, or whatever that's out there, right? Like there can be a subset, or there can be a focus within a super collection. I think that's great to point that out. What is, maybe one or two of your favorite Mauer pieces? Are there any that stand out that you just absolutely love that card?
Yeah, absolutely. And you had mentioned kind of before we connected, so I actually have a couple. I don't know if you normally have people like show them, or do you just
Yeah.
want me to describe them?
Yeah. If you
But
want to hold it up, hold it up.
yeah,
The folks watching on YouTube can see the actual image of the
sure.
card, but maybe make sure we know what it is as well for the people that are on audio only.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So this one is from 2020, and it's the Topps Reverence. So not a super. I don't think it's a big set, and not as not one that you see as much. At least I
Mhm.
don't on Twitter. And so the big reason why I love it so much is it has the photo of him when he came in and caught that last like inning of his final game. He put on the catcher's gear, and kind of a big moment for a lot of us. Teared up kind of thing, and
Yeah.
you go back and watch the video. And so here, I'll show it here. See if I can get it without the glare. So
Yeah.
you can see right here, that's the photo of him just acknowledging the crowd, and they took a moment for him, and he put the gear on for one last time. So in
And
terms of just
it's a patch auto, it looked like.
patch, yeah, patch auto, numbered 3 out of 5 on card
Okay.
auto. So and I'm not, there's some people that are big sticklers over on card or sticker auto, and I don't mind. I'm definitely willing to spend a little bit more if it's on card, but I'm not gonna. I don't really necessarily say I'm not going to buy it if it's a sticker, but this one is on card, and it says game used patch.
Very,
So
very cool.
yeah, yep. But then a couple other ones. Overall, one of my favorite parallels of all time is the Hope Diamond, and I posted of that a few times. And so you have just the Joe horizontal kind of basic. And I sent it in for grading just because some of the bigger ones I just like to have it. And so PSA 9, yeah, which is fine.
And that's
And
2011 tops.
Yep, 2011 Tops, numbered to 60, the Hope Diamonds. And I talked earlier about kind of those ebbs and flows of collecting. I actually had a little bit of time in college where I bought some stuff, but 2012, unfortunately. So, but when I started to kind of look back and look at all the older designs, some of my favorite designs are from that 2011 year, which is kind of unfortunate because there's a lot of unopened product from that year because
Mhm.
of Mike Trout. So
Yep.
most people aren't holding the Diamond Anniversary boxes or the Topps Finest boxes. Oh, Finest, was he? Yeah, he was 11. So um, unfortunately, I haven't seen the 101 Canary Diamond from Mauer yet. I do know who has the finest. That's another favorite of mine. I do know who has the finest superfractor, which is fine. But I really like those designs from that year. Um, and then I'll show you one more, and we can kind of move on. But I really like a lot of minis. So this is
Yeah.
from 2002, the Topps 206. And it's the Ooze It Back. And
Ah.
so I think people kind of did some math, and it's around 100. It's not numbered, but it is a small print run. Um, I believe the bazooka backs are 30, and then I think the Uzits are right around 100. So just to give an idea, and so I have a good amount of mini cards of his. As you know, I mentioned, as I started to become more selective, minis were one that I kind of prioritized. I also am a big fan of the Topps triple threads too, so I like a lot of those patch designs. So um,
I
so
love
yeah,
that.
those are a few examples, but
I
could
love that
certainly share
variety.
more. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that
thanks.
variety is fantastic. You've got from essentially his last game, right? The image from his last game,
Yep.
with an autograph and a relic on there, to um, the diamond anniversary parallel, to the minis from earlier in his career. I love that span that you've got going there. One of the other things I wanted to touch on is I noticed in your kind of Twitter feed that you do some sales as well.
Yeah.
You sell cards too, and I love, as people who are listeners of the show know, that I love that combination of buying and selling, trying to have somewhat of a self-sustaining hobby, combining both the business and hobby side of collecting. So I was curious to know a little bit more about your approach to building your collection. Are you attempting to fund your collection through these sales of other cards? Are you just selling off extras? Do you intentionally go out and buy collections or cards with the intent to resell, to do that? Kind of talk to me a little bit about your approach to selling and funding your PC.
Yeah, so I have a couple of different things. Uh, um, Originally, kind of when I started transitioning kind of to more sports cards over that Magic and those listing of records, I did kind of reevaluate what I was doing within those hobbies. And so some of the sales from those hobbies kind of started things off for me. So I was fortunate enough when I was teaching to have a summer job for a couple of summers. And so that helped with kind of the Magic and the records. And as records kind of became more popular, I was able to sell a few that I wasn't listening to as much for a little bit more than what I paid. And so that was kind of nice. But in terms of selling right now, I do try to do a good amount of selling on Twitter. I also sell on sport lots, which
Mhm.
not as well known as your eBay or on Twitter, but I sell a lot of base cards on there. So, if I'm at Target and I pick up a blaster box, even if I don't get a really good hit, I can usually sell most of those base cards, and I probably still lose out, but it's still a lot of fun to kind of do a random blaster box or pack here and there. And so for a while, for sport lots, I would just take the credit option, so you
Yep.
can actually just get credit, and I would use that to pull up a box at their PO box. And so that was a nice, easy way to get kind of those cheap 20 cent to dollar cards. It's kind of a very effective way to do it. But then some bigger cards on eBay. And so with the Twins, with like first Bowman cards and like rookie cards and stuff like that, I try not to overextend.
Mhm.
If I like somebody that's coming up, I'll buy a handful of cards and take like Arise, for example. I had a pretty decent, couple of dozen, nothing super big. But when he was traded, I probably halved it. So I still have a binder or 2 page of his stuff because really liked him and like watching him, really good player. But I kind of trimmed it down, and so it's never really a goal. It's not like I'm looking at the best prospects and trying to make money off of them, but it's kind of a thing where I'll buy some of their cards if they make it big. It would be nice. It's nothing wrong with making a little money off of it, or if they get traded, I trim down, and if they stick around, then I got a little bit of their cards. So that's kind of always been my philosophy, is to just um, try to find a happy medium between buying their super expensive 5 out of 5 or superfractor or something and hope that pays off kind of thing. I'll just pick up some cool cards I'm fine with, you know keeping value, or even if they lose value, I'm okay with that. So that's kind of my overall philosophy.
How has the Twitter sales been going for you?
Pretty good. I don't quite have the consistency that a lot of other people have. And I kind of recognize that things aren't going to go as well when and I haven't really kind of found a good groove overall. But I'd say for those kind of caveats, I think I'm doing okay. So, like I said, 3-year-old's getting me a lot of attention. He's actually getting tubes. So we found out that, he's kind of maybe been a mess the past half a year because he is dealing with those ear infections. But, once I hopefully get that more of that consistency down that you see from a lot of the popular stack sellers, hopefully that'll help out a little bit. Most of my followers are like Twins fans, and so I tend to do a little bit better when I sell more of those cards. So I am trying to kind of diversify, maybe dip a little bit into other sports, and that's just going to take time. So don't have a ton of hockey followers or football collector followers yet, and so just kind of keep at it and keep growing. And I don't want it necessarily to become super serious. I don't necessarily I may have to, if things grow enough, I may have to get a business, be a business, but I don't necessarily want it to be like a full-time job. I do want it to be more fun and just kind of a way to kind of grow the collection in other places. I have been with the increased prices in Mauer cards. I have been buying a few more wild cards, a few more Kaprizov cards. And that's kind of fun just to kind of round out the collection a little bit. And so probably after the induction ceremony, I'll kind of see what the prices are like and see if, kind of get back into Mauer.
Yeah. I mean, patience pays off, right? Just because you've been a Mauer collector for a long time doesn't mean that you have to keep buying through this current spike, right? You can be patient. There's going to be years and years of opportunity to continue to collect Mauer. That's great. But, and it may not be soon, but are there any kind of key things that you're still looking for? Any kind of key Mauer cards that you would just love to find at some point and add to your PC?
Yeah, so there's actually a couple. I am one short print away from having all of his like tops base, so like just the tops flagship paper, so no chrome, no like kind of separate sets. All I need is the 2017 warm-up jacket, super short print, so SSP. So I have all the other ones. I have the sparkle ones. There's 2 of them that he has. I have like the Snoopy one. That's kind of a popular one. And then there's a few other kind of really cool super short prints. So that's the one that I need still. I think I saw it a long time ago and haven't seen it since. So that's the one that I need from there. And then one of my kind of like focused in kind of themes was looking at 2002 like minor league cards. So there's a Upper Deck signature collection auto. I have the base, and then there's a gold out of 10, and I don't know if I'll ever see that, but that's kind of a specific one. And then there's a few years where I'm a little bit closer to like a rainbow than most, so I've been kind of focusing. So 2020 Allen and Ginter minis. I just need 2 more 101s. So the glossy and then the chrome superfractor 101. So those are kind of specific ones that I'm looking for that, I'll probably still, even if it's, these next couple months, I'll probably still, be willing to pay a good amount, and it probably will be, but those are kind of the specific ones I'm looking for.
Well, maybe somebody out there in YouTube land or in the podcast universe has those and are listening to this or viewing this video, and they want to get in touch with you. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, follow along with your collection, or maybe they've got one of these cards and they want to reach out? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm mostly active on Twitter, and so that Michalicek, which is kind of a mouthful, just like my last name, but so it's Michalickash. So Michalicek is my Twitter handle, and then of course you can just search my name. That's the most popular one. My trading card database is Michalicek08. And if you don't remember that, it will boast a little bit. I am the number one Mauer collector on there, so you'll find me if you just go to the Mauer spot. I know a few other people that have some pretty nice stuff, and probably a little bit more than me still on Twitter. But in terms of that database, I'm right up there at the top, which is kind of fun. But yeah, those two probably the easiest way to reach me. I don't really go on Facebook. I don't. I deleted Instagram, so I'm just trying to kind of cut back on social media overall. So that Twitter is probably the best way to go. And so that would be awesome. I would love that. And kind of would give me a chance to maybe look at the next theme.
Very cool. I really appreciate you spending a few minutes today. Like I said, I love having these super collector conversations and hear everybody's unique and different approach to the hobby and the things that they're passionate about. So I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with me today, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely happy to be here. And like I said, love talking about sports and the hobby as well. So really, really appreciate it.